So right now in the background, about, I would say 70 feet away is the top of a house, and probably close to 90 feet is a tree behind the house, and a couple trees in between. I'll show you right now, like there, back there. And so this is actually the most high performance for reach. This is actually, of this group, this is the Armytek Predator with the G2 LED. So you can see it light up those trees. There's a little palm tree right here. This is very visible on camera. So I'm actually going to go from the lowest and up, and you'll be able to follow along with that. So first, the general staples, the Fenix P35. Here's the P35. You know, it's got the wide hot spot, good for utility purposes. And this is lying a large area. There's you can see how it gets that roof line. And the MH2C is one I recommend because it technically is the same. It does have less output, but it compensates for that with a more tighter hot spot. You can see those trees up there. P35 going up to those trees. MH2C. MH2C. P35. You can see the MH2C definitely throws further, and it's a minimal difference in terms of the reflector size. It's more just a deeper reflector than actual, larger diameter. Moving from the MH2C, then we move to the Elzetta Charlie. It has a different characteristic altogether, and it is a warm light. You can see here, with my own personal experience, the Elzetta Charlie is a very powerful light. With you can see there's trees up there, tree back there. MH2C, Elzetta Charlie. Here's the MH2C. Here's the Elzetta Charlie. Now, what makes the Elzetta Charlie so nice is that it lights up and completes a spot. It is a focus beam, but you're getting a large illumination space, which I'll show in this next clip. But you can see here, between the MH2C and the Charlie, they kind of, you can see definitely the Charlie is a little bit more powerful. See the tip of that tree? But the Elzetta Charlie, again, is one of those flashlights where the LED is pushed really high, and so very quickly, within, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, the battery power will step down, and you'll lose that brightness level. While the MH2C will continuously stay at this output. It's only the Elzetta Charlie with the tactical twist cap and one mode that, and also the Armytek Predator G2, which have actual true tactical application, because if the cap is unscrewed, you can still activate the flashlight. The other one's just a slight untwisting, loosening of the cap, and it won't work. So now, the new shocker, really this one of the surprising ones, is here's the Elzetta Charlie, but here's now the Nitecore P16. And Nitecores are great because, again, they have, well, not only side of outstanding value, but they have the constant brightness sort of technology pattern that Armytek exhibits. So you can see here's the Elzetta Charlie illuminating those in the background, and here comes now the Nitecore P16. And of course, now the Elzetta Charlie is made in the US, and that's why I use it as a benchmark, because I know it's an honest company that's, you know, saying that it's put out 900 lumens, and it does. You can see definitely this P16 is superior, so we know that the P16 is very close, if not a little more than its 960 claimed output. I would say the P16, if we look at the general hotspot, the P16 is actually still wider of a hotspot than the Elzetta. It's just that it's more intense. It's just a more intense beam. Now we're at the final one. This flashlight here, the Predator G2, Predator Pro by Armytek. It is not the most highest output flashlight here. It's actually comparable to a PD35 in output, but what it does have is it has a G2 LED and a deep reflector. So here's the Predator. So here's the Predator compared to the Nitecore. So you can see on the Nitecore right here that illuminates that tree, the Predator really gets that outline of those trees. Look at that. So this Predator is very impressive. It's a very narrow hotspot. You can see it on the tree, but again, that focus beam really shoots it far out. And again, the Predator here is one of the more tactical ones because this flashlight you can program in the secondary mode, which is the loosen mode, and here I have it set towards strobe, and that strobe lasts, see, even how many twists I did from high to strobe. So this is just like the Elzetta Charlie with the specific twist tail cap. These two are the only ones that actually take into account the possibility of the flashlight becoming loose, receiving impacts and stuff while you're moving around. So for tactical use, they're the ones that are going to be reliable. They don't require much secondary thought. The Predator in real world use is a little bit more convenient because of the lower output. It's a little bit less glaring in your face when up close distances. It won't hurt your eyes as much, but it still projects in real world a more usable light, because a lot of these lights, they have two issues here. One is they have a high output, but that high output is just a temporary thing. It's almost like a gimmick. They can't, for example, the Elzetta Charlie is not a light that can be a searchlight. It's a tactical light, meaning for momentary lighting. If you take it on a search and rescue, for example, situation, after 4, 5, 10 minutes, your light's going to dim and you no longer have the reason why you carry that light. Same thing with a lot of high-powered lights. It's just a way to push out an output and then get a manufacturer claim, and people buy into that high output figure. But the reality here is that a true flashlight that's a useful tool needs to have that output stay consistent for longer periods of time, which then allow it to do other applications such as rescue missions, or just in general, you know, we get these lights for that power. But the next thing to consider is then what I'm showing here is the throw. You know, you can hit 1,000, for example, on this Nitecore P16 you have 960 lumens, but it's not really relevant because it needs to throw and project that light into the distance. And having a ton of light, like on the P16, is very impressive up close, but it won't help you more than, you know, it's already illuminated enough. So we'll go backwards now. Here we have the Predator and the P16. So here's the Predator. You can see extremely tight hotspot. Almost like on camera looks like it's blowing up that one little area too much, overexposing it. But you can see, compared now to the P16, the P16 has a much larger hotspot and an incredibly large spill. But because of the overall power, it's reaching that distance, but you can see you can get more definition from the Predator. And then as we move down, we have the Charlie. Now here you can see now the Charlie's I would say very helpful for tactical situations. You can see how the Charlie evenly illuminates one spot. Like the transition from the hot spot to the spill is very fluid. So you really, in this camera, you can see how it's letting us see the entire area. Much more easier to identify objects or people with the Elzetta Charlie in my right hand right here. But you can see power differences. Regardless, you can tell that the P16 is outputting more. Also consider, of course, that the Elzetta Charlie is a warm light. So now we're moving from the Elzetta Charlie to the Nitecore MH2C. Here's the Elzetta Charlie. Here's the MH2C. So you can see the hot spot. At this distance, that tree is roughly perhaps only 40 feet. You can see what's causing the Elzetta to be, I would say, a little bit more defined is just that its output is superior. We're talking the MH2C probably has an estimated output of similar to the PD35, but not a little bit less actually. But you can see here, if you can identify on the tree the hot spot on the Elzetta right now compared to the MH2C. The MH2C is not as tight. So obviously, like I said, the MH2C is the inferior light in this situation. You can see as it aims that corner. Here's the Elzetta in that corner. Elzetta. But now if we go back down from the MH2C, P35 now is in my left hand. Here's the P35. Very wide hot spot. A lot of spill. MH2C, P35. MH2C, P35. So I think you can, so it's visible here on camera that the MH2C is actually, like I said, it's less and I'll show in the next testing, it's less output than the PD35, but it's just the fact that that output is more concentrated, just slightly more narrow beam angle. They're very similar in construction, but what really again makes the Nitecore sound for me is beyond the fact that it has a built-in recharger, is that it has that similar run pattern and drain pattern to the Armytek's, meaning you're going to get this intensity for the duration of the battery life, roughly an hour, over an hour, compared to the P35. Within 15 minutes your P35 is starting to dim and it's noticeable.